Peace, family. It's been quite some time since the last time I made a video. Been going through some upgrades, development, evolution. So of course that always calls for a time to step back into self. And of course take the time to really understand what it is that spirit is trying to do. And understanding what spirit is trying to have you understand in those moments of evolution and those moments of growth. So with that, I've come to this point now where it's come upon me to just speak on topics, speak on things that aren't spoken on, or things that may not be fully understood. One of those things being a gift that I'm stepping into, which is clear audience. And that's really just being able to hear the things that aren't there. Being able to hear the subtleties in the air, in the animals, in the water, and then being able to turn around and express that. That's the real importance with it, is the expression part. So something that I'm going to start doing for my personal journey is, I guess, is like a podcast, so to speak. And this is just allowing me the space to express openly, express those things that I'm hearing, expressing that information, expressing those subtleties that may not be heard by the average person. So of course this, for me, will just be like a conversation with self, where I'm essentially having conversation, simple. And hopefully that allows other individuals to see that, one, it is okay to express with yourself. If you can't express with yourself, you can't realistically expect to be able to openly express with another person. So that's step one. And then it's secondly to allow others to see that there are other ways of expressing spiritual gifts, other ways to step into spiritual gifts. Because like I said, for me, this is a new gift or ability. Clear audience is one of those things that I've been aware of, but it's not anything that I've practiced. It's not anything that I've utilized. So for me now, it's just about the utilization and the expression of it. And in that, one of the main things that I've been discussing with self lately is the process, the art of a spiritual awakening, and what exactly is spiritual warfare. What exactly is going on that we internally feel? We know it's something happening, but we can't see that's happening. We can just feel. So, from my understanding, of course, it all starts with the spirit, and really tapping into your internal bodies in order to understand and be able to explain and express what's going on into your external reality. That's the main thing with the spiritual awakening. It's kind of, for me, how I understood it earlier, was like a midlife crisis, just without the midlife, right? You haven't necessarily, for some individuals, haven't necessarily hit the middle of life yet. You're still 19, 18, 19, 20. For me, I'm 25. So it's still very much so the beginning of life. And it's really start a step into your spirit early on, so that you're expressing through the right mediums, expressing who you are and what you are in the proper fashions, so that you don't find yourself 20 years later, 30 years later, feeling incomplete. Feeling as though you may not have accomplished everything that it is that you want to accomplish. Feeling as though you may have not made the impact that you wanted to make, simply because your objectives, your desires, your goals were channeled through the wrong mediums. And what does that mean? Meaning, for some individuals, your desire is strictly root-based, strictly sacral-based, strictly solar plexus-based. So really stepping out of those and understanding that there's a higher level of desire. There's a higher level of expression. And a lot of us, of course, it comes down to the things that we consume, and that's why it's a spiritual awakening. It's the spirit, and what do you feed your spirit? Because that ultimately determines what you put out. What you're putting in is what you put out. And when it comes to that, it's one of those things that we have to break down, kind of like a science. How I've been on this path, this journey for about a year now. And what I've really learned, one of the big things is what you consume. Of course, that's through all your senses, your taste, your touch, your hearing, your sight, and most importantly, your feeling, what you feel. If you're constantly around energy that feels lower, that feels dirty, that feels not in alignment with you, but you're still on a day-to-day around it, in it, and then of course, eventually the things that you begin to put out align with that energy that you're in, or align with that energy that you're consuming, be it foods, drinks. I'm a big advocate on no alcohol, simply because of the science behind the spirits of alcohol is, of course, this is something that can be looked up and Googled, alcohol, coming from Arabic origins. So just the understanding of what are you putting in your body. And again, that's through all the senses. What are you listening to? The music nowadays that we predominantly listen to, of course, and this is speaking mainly to the melanated, the black communities, that modern hip hop and rap, they're beating you with 808s. And they're feeding your subconscious, feeding your being with sex-related things, drug-related things, hustling, things of that nature, which forces you into those lower chakras, into that root chakra, into that sacral chakra predominantly, and it blocks it up. So now the only things that you can put out are sex-related, are money-oriented. You never really find the time to find who you are as an individual, what you are as an individual. And that really ties into the whole spiritual warfare thing. Of course, when we all first awaken, it becomes this big thing, or we're in a spiritual warfare. There's the World War III is happening, right? But no one ever really gets in depth and really explains what that means. So to my understanding, the spiritual warfare is, of course, we understand the world around us is frequency and vibration. So obviously, if there's a war on your spirit, there is a war through frequencies. And that goes to what I was just saying about the music that we listen to. The first thing you do when you turn on the radio, well, whether the first thing you hear when you turn on the radio is, if it's not a woman discussing how good her sex is, or a man discussing how hard he hustled to get out the streets, right? Get into a bag. And then behind those words, behind those spells, because that's what the English language is, they're hitting you with that frequency of an 808. So that 808 is naturally just vibrating you. It's vibrating the internal cells within your body. And thus, as those cells vibrate, they're loosening up to receive whatever spells or words are being inputted into the subconscious. So as they begin to develop, they're developing through these lower chakras. They're developing through these spells that have been input into your subconscious and ingrained from the vibrations of specific drum patterns, the vibrations of specific melodies, and ultimately how the music itself is tuned. One thing that I came across at the beginning of my journey was simple. The tuning of radio music is at 440 hertz, and a natural frequency is more tuned to 432 hertz. So of course, to our normal hearing patterns, because we've been listening to 440s for so long, that slight change doesn't really sound like it makes a difference. But internally, to the things that you can't see, the spirit is making a huge impact and difference, simply because your cells are constantly developing, they're constantly regenerating, they're constantly absorbing based on the environment that is perceived. And that goes also to what you see. Perception is a big key in this world, because of course we're shown specific things to feed our reality. Of course, we always want to stay in a happy state, so we're going to look at the things that make us feel comfortable. We're going to look at the things that make us feel happy, joyful, etc. And it ultimately comes down to understanding that some of the things that you see, hear, feel on a daily basis are placed in front of you in a fashion that forces you to accept that as your reality. And what I mean by that, simply, certain things will never be placed in your reality because it's not desired to know of those things. So for example, if you're someone that loves shopping, you'll get on social media, and of course shopping ads will always come up for you, whether it be a new shopping app, whether it be Amazon, whether it be Etsy, whatever it may be. Because you're never thinking about things outside of that. Say, for example, food. We'll just keep it on a basic level, basic example, shopping versus food. If you're always shopping for stuff on your phone, but you're never looking at food, food will never come up in your reality. Thus, you're never thinking about that. So what happens is, in this war, this spiritual war, the war for your spirit, for the internal world, the things that you cannot see, the things that you are not aware of, specific things are placed in your reality, so you never think of things like your spirit or the things internal. So we'll go on to a factor of external versus internal, right? If you're an extremely external person, a person who's of the world, right? Of course, you're gonna constantly be fed things like the hottest shoe, the new food item, the next cell phone that comes out, right? For those things, for example, you're never going to be shown or experienced in things relating to your spirit, things relating to general health and well-being, because that's not what you're looking for. So when it comes to a frequency war or spiritual war, we have to be mindful of the things that we consume, because some things are being shoved in our faces, shoved into the conscious mind, so that we never address the subconscious mind. We never address the things that we weren't aware of. And it's not that you don't know about it. It's simply, again, a level of awareness. That's just not what you choose as an individual to pay attention to. So of course you'll never come across that to see, to feel, to hear. But the big thing that I like to harp on is frequency, sound, vibration. Of course, we're in a time where everyone says, keep your vibration high, keep your frequency high, don't do low vibrational things, right? But what does that really mean? What separates low vibrational versus high vibrational? And with that, we really have to dive deeper into the understanding of desires and the chakras, right? How I view the chakras, and this is just me as an individual, so you can of course choose to accept it in your reality, or you can choose not to. But through my lens of perception, desires vary based upon chakra level. So if you're someone who's constantly, say, in the root chakra, this is a chakra that deals with your stability, your grounding, your overall well-being to the earthly manner. On an earthly basis, how do you feel? What do you perceive? What do you do to feel at ease, at comfort? So pertaining to, relating that back to vibration, right? Of course, that's not to say that your root chakra is low vibrational, but the desires that span out of it may be. Meaning stability. We'll use the word stability. Stability is a good word for the root chakra because, of course, grounding. How you stand on your own 2 feet. And of course, in this world, what's shoved in our face, shoved into our subconscious mind, is that the only way to be stable is by, say, making a whole bunch of money. So of course, the natural root chakra desire is, let me make money. Let me get to the proverbial bag, right? And we have to initially pause ourselves there, because what does that even mean? What is the bag? And we have to really stop to reflect on, how does this proverbial bag reflect into my goals, into my morals? How does this bag reflect into what I ultimately came onto this plane of reality to do? So we're desiring stability, right? Thus, our first instinct, our first thought in this society, in this world is, now I desire money, because money is going to make me stable, so they say. And we begin to pursue this. Now, of course, this does not apply to everyone, but some individuals it may apply to, that we get into this root chakra behavior and we begin to do anything to find ourselves stable, anything to get money. And in certain situations, of course, again, this does not apply to everyone, but for some individuals, they lose morality, lose value in replace of stability. And the thing is to be mindful of that when it comes to vibrations, right? Where's your desire being reflected out of? Because then we can simply flip the lens, right? Root chakra to crown chakra, of course, that would be the mirror, splitting here at the heart. So you have your upper chakras, your throat, third eye, crown, splits at the heart. You have your solar plexus, sacral, root chakra. So you flip that in reverse and you have your desires now shooting from your crown, right? That's where your reflection is coming from. And that's of course not to say that your crown chakra can't be low vibrational. That's not to say that your root chakra can't be high vibrational. Of course, all things, duality, polarities do exist. But say the goal, the intention is high vibrational, right? Keep our vibrations high as possible, stay on a high frequency range. And we're reflecting our desires out of the crown chakra now. And the crown chakra desires simply to be and to know. That's your main desires when it comes to the crown chakra. So how to be and to know? And I'll give both polarity, both dualities of this. In a low vibrational standpoint, an individual, let me recant on that, because in order to even have a low vibrational crown chakra, that means all the other chakras are out of alignment, meaning your root chakra is not stable. So thus your crown chakra is waving, it's all over the place, right? It's not a possible way for the crown chakra to be stable if the root chakra is not stable. So with that being said, a low vibrational crown chakra is going to desire to be and to know by any means possible. And if that means they have to, in an extreme case, kill an individual in order for them to be in their most serene state, or to rob or take from a library or take from a museum in order to know. That's in a case of a low vibrational crown chakra doing anything possible to reach that desire of knowing and being. And again, that stems from an unstable root chakra. For a high vibrational high vibrational crown chakra desire, again, to be and to know, an individual is going to take steps such as, say, meditation simply, or sitting down to read a book. Instead of going to steal a book, you read a book, you ask for higher guidance, right? And that becomes the difference between high vibrational and low vibrational. The how of reaching and attaining an individual's specific desires. Of course, we live in a world full of choices. That's what they say, the third dimension, your solar plexus, you have the option to do things. In this world, there's thousands of choices. You can be this, you can be that, you can go here, you can go there. But it's all about the how do you choose to do this? Do you choose to find your stability by robbing someone else? Or do you choose to find your stability by aligning yourself with a career that brings you stability? How do you find your knowledge? Do you choose to take and absorb someone else's energy, take and absorb someone else's knowing? Or do you choose to sit with yourself? You choose to converse and have open discussions and expressions with yourself in order to attain a certain level of knowledge and information. Um, so that's one of the biggest things we have to understand within this spiritual war, that the goal is to knock our vibrations off balance in a way that we choose to do a lower vibrational act. We have to maintain our composure. We have to maintain our spirit within ourselves. We have to ultimately fight back by choosing to be higher vibrational, right? And of course, through this frequency war, it seems impossible to choose or do the right things in certain moments or certain situations. And in order to help that, we must consciously be aware of, first, what are they doing to knock me off balance? What's being done to me to knock me off balance, to knock my root chakra off balance, so now I'm waving all over the place in the wind? And through that is how you can find your own way to fight back. So for me as an individual, in my individual path, I realized firstly with music, firstly through taste, through sound, through hearing. Because of course we want to remember our senses, that there's 5 main senses. Of course there's senses outside of that, but the main senses that everyone is aware of: taste, touch, smell, sight, feeling. Well, touch and feeling is the same thing. Taste, touch, smelling. Excuse me, my bad. I think I might have said touch and feeling earlier. So touch and smell. Taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing. Now that I'm thinking about that, that actually takes me onto a whole, I completely forgot about smelling. But staying on topic, with taste and hearing firstly. Taste, hearing, sight are the main 3 that are being attacked to throw you off balance. How is taste? Food. It starts simply with there. Food, if it tastes bad or is bitter, you're probably not gonna eat it. You're probably gonna choose to go away from it. And because we've been stuck in this trap, this loop for so long, we have forgotten the knowledge, the information that the bitter foods are actually what allows the body to heal itself, because those are the foods that actually contain higher minerals that the body can consume. So with taste in this society, we're being attacked with, say, for example, things like McDonald's. You have sweets, sugars, salts that appeal to the things that we desire. They taste good, they look good, they smell good. So by default, now just simply off them tasting good, we're gonna desire it again. Thus, now the bitter foods are being pushed and forced to the back of the mind. The herbs that you need, the minerals that you need, pushed straight to the back of the subconscious mind. And we're now only focused on those things that appeal to our taste, that taste good, that light up that sense. Hearing. How is sound affecting us? Again, back to the radio. Simple things, little things like the tuning to 440 hertz, just a slight bit off, vibrates your cells at a different range, vibrates your internal being. When you're standing next to a speaker at the club, or you're sitting in your car and you got the volume turned up and that 808 is pounding, right? That's vibrating your cells to a different range, vibrating your cells to a different shape. And shapes are things that we'll get into later, because that actually makes a difference in a lot. The shapes that we're privy to. Of course, most things in this world are in the shape of a square, in the shape of a box. Why? It's a mental game. If you're seeing boxes all day, you're going to internally stay within a box, within one realm, within one dimension, because all you see is this square. But again, that's another topic that gets into sight. What you see actually has a huge influence between shapes and colors. But I'll get into that in a second. Let me not get too far off track rather. Sounds, frequencies. The biggest thing that I've learned, simple frequencies make you internally feel a specific way because it's vibrating your cells back to a state that you have not experienced in quite some time, let's say. Back to a shape that you have not experienced in quite some time. So one of the things that I've learned to fight back, simple sound baths, sound healing, allowing the body to take different forms and allowing the body to take different shapes, because ultimately you are a body of water. And the main characteristic of water is to adapt. Water can shift, shape, and move in any way it wants to. And we have to understand that when it comes to a spiritual war, the powers that be, I don't like calling them elites, but that's how most people know them as, right? I'll just say the powers that be for now. They know your body's water. They know your body is plasma. So what do they also know? They can change the shape and form of your body. There's obviously that big experiment, well-known Asian gentleman, I don't remember his name, where he did an experiment with water and speaking into the water, simply speaking the words. Again, like I said at the beginning, the English language is a spell. The words that gentleman was able to speak into the water shifted the shape and the vibration of the water. When he froze it, one water came out cracked, fragmented, whatnot, and the other water that he spoke positively into came out into this beautiful crystalline structure. So we have to remember that internally, when we're listening to certain music or certain tones and certain frequencies, how is this moving the water inside of my body? What shape do I think this music is making inside of my body? And do I need this shape inside my body? Because ultimately, if this shape is inside of me, it is outside of me too. And we have to be mindful and aware of the shapes that are internal and the shapes that are external, because ultimately that is one of the biggest keys to the spiritual war in your sovereignty as a being. Are you still making squares inside your body? Are you still stuck within boundaries? Or do you have circles and octagons, hexagons forming in your body? It's little things, simple things, the things that we are not aware of that we are being attacked with. Sight, the things you see on a daily basis. Again, like I said, color and shape are the biggest things. Those are the most important things that are being attacked. Simple things like we'll place food into your lower chakras, into the root chakra for now, right? The color of the root chakra is red. The color of McDonald's is red and yellow. The solar plexus is yellow. The root chakra is red. So these two colors, what I'm seeing, are appealing to my two of my lower three chakras. Simple science that because we as a collective, as a people, are unaware and they are aware, they can utilize it to harm us, to destroy us from the inside out. And of course you'll say, well, there's some places with blue. There's some places that are purple. This is true. And those things appeal then to your, say, throat chakra, your third eye chakra, and your crown chakra. Does that make them any better? Not necessarily, depending on the intention. Because again, all chakras, all 7, all, what do they say, 114, if I'm not mistaken, the chakras that we are unaware of. Because again, there's a lot of this world that we are unaware of. Because the things that we should know, the things that we should see are being pushed back into the back of the subconscious, into the unconscious mind. But the 7 main chakras, of course, have their duality. Negative, positive, polarities. So we have to be mindful when we're looking at food, or we're looking at clothing brands, or we're looking at ads in general. What they're showing you, what they're flashing, what colors are being flashed, what are they trying to appeal to, what desire are they trying to draw in, or draw out, rather. And then shapes. Again, like same as the water, you don't want your internal waters to be vibrating squares all the time, because that internally keeps you within boundaries. So little things. Vibrating your internal shapes, or externalizing your shapes. The things that are drawn, the things that are in ads. And I can't think of any ads specifically that utilize shapes. But I'll use an ancient example for higher vibrational purposes. Everything was in pyramids. If you study the pyramids in Egypt, it's an 8-sided pyramid. It's not 4 sides, it's 8 sides. Simple little things. The shapes make a difference. Because ultimately everything is a lens, like your eyes, sight. You learn about the eyes, there's a lens, there's at least 2 to 3 layers over the eye. So things, light, colors are being refracted in a way that internally it may be something, it may be one thing, but by the time it's processed and reflected through the lens, it's a completely different object. It's a completely different material or energy. So when it comes to shapes, is being mindful that certain shapes are reflecting and refracting specific types of energies that may or may not be for our highest vibrational purpose. So bringing that back to the pyramids in Egypt, it's 8 sides. Why? Because the waters, if you learn about Egypt, there were and are underground aquifers still. And there's also sound chambers underground. So inside this sound chamber next to water, there's chanting, there's sounds and frequencies played at a specific tune and tone that vibrates off of the pyramid's walls and allows energy to vortex and move in a specific fashion that allows it to power and run things, stuff at an efficient and effective manner. So to summarize it all, right? We need to understand, in a spiritual warfare, our senses and our internal body is what is being attacked. To fight back, you must become aware of your feelings, of the things you see, of the things you hear, of the things you taste and consume, as well as the things that you smell. And for some, it will be specifically important to hone in on your most, what do we say, our most prevalent sense, the sense that we use the most to fight back. So for me, like I said at the beginning of the video, getting into learning how to utilize my clairaudience. I have extremely sensitive hearing to the point where I need solitude. I need to be in quiet places, or otherwise I begin to feel my body vibrate into a different manner that may not be for my highest good. So with that awareness, I must take the time to study hearing, sounds, and utilize those sounds in a fashion that reflects and refracts certain energies. Most powerful thing that you can do as an individual within this spiritual war, the war of the unseen, the war for your spirit, is to maintain awareness at all times, because you will be hit from any direction at any time through any sense. And that's all I have for today, for this first episode, first video of conversations with myself. Of course, I want to always send love, peace, and gratitude for your time, for your energy, and for your overall being. Thank you.